Hey clase, welcome back to the next section of this lesson, this RLS Spanish lesson, or Rick's Language Services Spanish lesson. Our learning objectives for today are, for this part of the lesson, are to increase your Spanish vocabulary by memorizing more TPR phrases and by answering questions about those TPR phrases. Okay, so the first one we're going to review. GPR phrase is se toca el cerebro, or la mente. So see if you can remember what that means. We had this one a while back on one of the previous videos. Se toca el cerebro. I don't think it said la mente on the other one. Talk about that in a minute, but we did have cerebro. So se toca el cerebro. You know what that means? Do the action if you know it. Okay, good. So se toca el cerebro, that means like he, she, it, or you touches his, her, its, or your brain. So he touches his brain, she touches her brain, it touches its brain, or you touch your brain. And then if you say, instead of saying el cerebro, if you say la mente, se toca la mente, that'd mean he touches his mind, she touches her mind, it touches its mind, or you touch your mind. Okay? So remember, for the action on that one, I would just like use the tips of your fingers and touch your forehead, the front of your brain, and just act like you're touching your brain. Okay, so se toca el cerebro, se toca la mente. Put your hand on your front of your head like you're touching your brain. Okay. ¿Para qué usa o usas el cerebro? ¿Para qué usa el cerebro? ¿Para qué usas el cerebro? Remember what that means? Good. For what do you use your brain? But in English, what do you use your brain for? Okay. You could put la mente in there. We're going to focus on the word el cerebro just to simplify this a little bit. Okay. So what do you use your brain for? ¿Para qué usa el cerebro? ¿Para qué usas el cerebro? To answer it, you're going to say uso mi cerebro para. Remember, if it ends with O, like uso, that means I something. So this is I use my brain for blank, or I use my brain to blank. Okay? So what are things you use your brain to do? ¿Para qué usas el cerebro? ¿Para qué usa el cerebro? Uso mi cerebro para pensar. Uso mi cerebro para pensar. So try to do an action with pensar. Pensar means to think. I'd maybe like tap on your head like you're thinking, or put your fingers on your chin like you're thinking. Okay, so uso mi cerebro para pensar. Uso mi cerebro para comprender. Obviously that means to comprehend would be the cognate. It could also translate as understand, to understand. Okay, so uso mi cerebro para pensar, like you're thinking. Uso mi cerebro para comprender. On that one, I would maybe tap your head and then stick your finger up like I get it. You know how people do that when they finally have kind of that aha moment. To me, that's what makes sense for comprender. It's like, uso mi cerebro para comprender. Okay. All right. Uso mi cerebro para entender. Okay, entender is like comprender. Okay, entender also means to understand. From what I've seen and observed, I think entender is a little bit more common for native speakers to say entender instead of comprender. Okay, but they do use both. They do use both. I don't want you to get the idea they never say comprender. You will hear them say comprender. Just seems like a little more often you'll hear them say entender. Okay, but those two are basically interchangeable, comprender and entender. Okay, so for that one, do the same thing. Tap your forehead and then stick your hand up like aha, like that light bulb moment. Okay, for entender, that's the action I do for entender. So uso mi cerebro para entender. Uso mi cerebro para estudiar. Okay, I hope that one's an easy one for you. It's a cognate, means to study. And maybe stick your hands out like they're a book, like you're reading through a book, or maybe use one hand like a book and the other one like you're kind of going through the book for the action for estudiar. Okay, so uso mi cerebro, tap on your brain for that part, para estudiar, act like you're studying something. Okay, I use my brain to study. Okay, uso mi cerebro para aprender. Aprender, that means to learn. Uso mi cerebro para aprender. One of my students had a really good action for that. What they did is they took their hands and put them like they were putting it on a book, and then they would go from the book to their brain with their hands, like they were like taking that information from the book and putting it right in their brain. Okay, that to me that made a lot of good sense for aprender, which means to learn. Because that's what you do when you learn, right? You're taking knowledge and getting it into your brain. So uso mi cerebro para aprender. I use my brain to learn. Okay, we're going to have some more underneath here. Uso mi cerebro para saber cosas. Saber cosas. Saber means to know. Cosas means things. So I use my brain to know things. Uso mi cerebro para saber cosas. What makes sense to me for saber is to like hold your hand up like you know the answer and like kind of wave your hand like you're trying to get the teacher's attention. Like, I know the answer. Okay, uso mi cerebro para saber cosas. Okay, uso mi cerebro para hacer matemáticas. Hacer matemáticas. So hacer means to do. Matemáticas obviously means mathematics or math. And that one maybe act like you're adding numbers up on your fingers. Like maybe 2 on one finger, 2 on one hand, and 2 on the other hand. Like you're then put them together like you're trying to say 4. Put them together. 2 plus 2 is 4. So uso mi cerebro para hacer matemáticas. Okay. All right, let's go back and review these. So try to do the action we talked about with each one, okay? So uso mi cerebro para pensar. Para pensar. Tap on your brain or put your fingers on your chin like you're thinking. That's to think. Uso mi cerebro para pensar. Uso mi cerebro para comprender. You tap your brain a little bit and then stick your hand up like that aha moment. I use my brain to comprehend or understand. It's like, I use my brain to get it. Okay, uso mi cerebro para comprender. Uso mi cerebro para entender. Remember that entender means the same thing as comprender. So do that same action. It's like that light bulb moment. I get it. Okay, aha. Uso mi cerebro para entender. Okay, uso mi cerebro para estudiar. Estudiar. Remember, that means to study, so act like you're looking through a book. Uso mi cerebro para estudiar. Okay, uso mi cerebro para aprender. Aprender. Okay, remember what that one is? Okay, good. That's where you're taking the knowledge from the book and putting it in your brain. Okay, use your hands to kind of signal that, motion that. Aprender means to learn, which is when you put things in your brain, get things in your brain. So uso mi cerebro para aprender. I use my brain to learn. Okay, uso mi cerebro para saber cosas. Saber cosas. What was the action for that one? Good. Raise your hand like you're trying to get the teacher's attention. I know the answer. Okay, I use my brain to know things. Uso mi cerebro para saber cosas. Okay, uso mi cerebro para hacer matemáticas. Hacer matemáticas. You remember the action for that one? Good. Use your fingers like you're counting up numbers and add them together to do math. I use my brain to do math. Okay, let's get some more in here. Uso mi cerebro para hacer planes. Hacer planes. Now, I put this one here on purpose right after this last one. Notice that hacer matemáticas, this hacer meant to do math. Okay. This one, hacer planes, is going to mean to make plans. Okay. So I use my brain to make plans. What I'm trying to point out here is that verb hacer can mean 2 different things. It can translate 2 different ways. It can translate as to do math, okay? Or it can translate as to make, like to make plans, okay? So anyway, that verb, hacer, sometimes it's going to mean to do, sometimes it's going to mean to make, okay? For hacer planes, one that makes sense for me on that one is act like you're talking on the phone with somebody and like you're making plans in a planner, right? Like you're writing something down in a planner. So hacer planes. Okay, uso mi cerebro para memorizar. Memorizar. Okay, obviously that means to memorize. It's cognate. Should be an easy one. The action for that one, use your hands like they're flashcards and like you're looking at it and then flipping it over. So use your hand, your hands facing palm up and then flip it over after you're done with that card and go to the next one. So uso mi cerebro para memorizar. Okay, use my brain to memorize. Okay, uso mi cerebro para recordar. Recordar. To remember. So I use my brain to remember. To me, what makes sense on that one is kind of, I would do kind of the same thing you do for like entender or comprender. It's kind of like that aha moment, like, I just remembered that. Just remembered something. Recordar. So uso mi cerebro para recordar. Use my brain to remember. Okay, let's try to get a couple more in here. Uso mi cerebro para acordarme de. Okay, now that also means to remember. Okay, what I'm pointing out here is there's two different ways to say remember. Okay, you can say recordar to remember. You can also say acordarme de. Now, this is going to depend on who's saying it. When you say acordarme de, that's with like I am doing it, right? I use my brain to remember. That will change with different people. If you say like he uses his brain to remember, it would be usa su cerebro para acordarse de. Okay, or if you're saying we remember, we use our brains to remember, be usamos nuestros cerebros para acordarnos de. Okay, so this right here is what they call a reflexive verb. Okay, so on a reflexive verb, it has a reflexive pronoun attached to the end of it. That's what the may is. And that reflexive pronoun, there's a reflexive pronoun for each person. So there's one for me, there's one for you, there's one for this group, he, she, it, or formal you. There's one for like us or we, and then there's one for they or you guys. Okay. So there's a bunch of different ones. So it'd be like may, te, say, nos, and say, right? So this can change to acordarme, acordarte, acordarse, acordarnos, acordarse. Okay, depending on who is remembering. Okay, if it's I am the one remembering, it's going to be this one, acordarme de. Okay, all right. So anyway, that's to remember. Now also the difference, I think the difference between recordar and acordarme de, I don't know if it may be fairly interchangeable as far as I understand. However, I think this one you use a little more if you're talking about like information, like I remember facts and information. And this one would be a little bit more like I remember people or I remember specific events. Like, if you're saying like I remember you or I remember that one time that we went to lunch together or something like that. Okay, I think those are the times you'd use acordarme de instead of recordar. Okay, but as far as our action, you can do the same thing with that one as you do for recordar. So it's kind of just like that. I do something for you that means like, I just remembered that. Like, for me, it's like I tap my brain and then stick my hand up like that light bulb moment. I remember. Okay, uso mi cerebro para acordarme. Yeah. Okay, uso mi cerebro para conocer a personas. Para conocer a personas. So that one, conocer means to meet or to know. And then personas means people. The right here is something that we don't have in English. Okay, in Spanish, they have a rule called a personal that you have to use in Spanish. Okay, so in Spanish it has to be here, but it does not translate to English because we don't have the same rule in English. Okay, basically what this is indicating is that this verb, conocer, is happening to people. Okay, so since it's happening to people and not things, you have to use the personal to indicate, this is happening to people. Okay. If you were saying like I know a place, you wouldn't have the there, right? Like if you say, I use my brain to, I don't know, to know Idaho. You'd say, uso mi cerebro para conocer Idaho. Okay, but Idaho's not a person or people, so you don't say conocer a Idaho. Okay, but since the word personas is people, you have to say, uso mi cerebro para conocer a personas. Okay, so to know people, I want to go back. I think we already had saber. I don't know why I didn't put these together, but saber cosas, remember that means to know things. But conocer can also mean to know. Okay, so saber can mean to know, conocer can mean to know, but saber is like to know things, to know facts, to know information. Conocer is to know people or to know places. Okay, what makes sense to me is to think of conocer. Conocer is almost more like instead of saying it means to know, it's almost like it means like to be familiar with something. Okay, it's like I'm familiar with that person, or I'm familiar with that place. I know it because I've been there before. I know this person because I met them before. I'm familiar with them. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, uso mi cerebro para reconocer. All right, so notice that you have the word conocer in there, like we just had. Conocer, which was to know or to meet people. Reconocer, this one's actually a cognate. That means to recognize. Okay. And it's kind of the same idea, right? You recognize things if you're familiar with them. You've seen them before. You've met that person before. You've been to that place before. So you recognize it. Okay. You can re-know it again because you knew it already once, or you knew it in the past. Okay. Anyway, so recognize, reconocer. It's like to recognize something or somebody. Conocer is just to know the person, to be familiar with the person or the place. Okay. All right. Reconocer, for the action on that one, I might, use your fingers and like you're looking at somebody, and then that same aha, like I know that person. Okay, that aha moment, the light bulb going off moment. I know that person. Okay, I recognize that person. So I use my brain to recognize. Okay, uso mi cerebro para imaginar. That was obvious. The easy one means to imagine. Okay. Sorry, going back to reconocer. That one's a cognate, so hopefully that will help you. Hopefully you'll just kind of know that means to recognize. But if that doesn't come easily, do the action with it. Okay. Same thing with imaginar. Hopefully that is easy enough because it's a cognate. But if not, I would maybe, use your hands like you're above your head, like you're trying to formulate something, or you're imagining something. It's kind of like you're thinking something over. You got bubbles above your head. The gears going above your head. Okay, imaginar. So uso mi cerebro para imaginar. Okay. All right, let's do two more here. Uso mi cerebro para soñar. Soñar. That one is a little bit harder. That means to dream. Okay. Uso mi cerebro para soñar. So the action on that one, maybe, act like you're asleep, put your head on your hands like you're sleeping, and then, do something above your head like you're dreaming of something. Okay, like there's a bubble, a dream above your head. Okay. Uso mi cerebro para soñar despierto. Okay. Remember, soñar up here meant to dream, so that's going to be dream. Literally means to dream awake. Soñar means to dream. Despierto means awake. Okay. However, in English, the way you'd say that is to daydream. Okay. Like to have a dream while you're still awake. To daydream. So I use my brain to dream. I use my brain to daydream. Okay. All right. Let's review really quick. See if you can remember what these mean. And we got a lot on this one, so we might have to call that good for this lesson and then do some more parts after it. But para qué usa el cerebro? Para qué usas el cerebro? What do you use your brain for? Uso mi cerebro para. I use my brain to pensar. Do you remember what pensar means? Okay, good. To think. So, uso mi cerebro para pensar. Okay, uso mi cerebro para comprender. Do you remember what that one is? Good. To comprehend or understand. Do that aha moment with your, do a gesture for the aha moment. I use my brain to understand. Okay, uso mi cerebro para entender. Do you remember what that means? Uso mi cerebro para entender. I use my brain to, good, to understand. Entender and comprender basically mean the same thing, to understand or comprehend. Okay, uso mi cerebro para estudiar. You know what that one means? That one's a cognate, estudiar. Okay, good, to study. I use my brain to study. Uso mi cerebro para estudiar. ¿Para qué usa el cerebro? ¿Para qué usas el cerebro? Uso mi cerebro para estudiar. I use my brain to study. Okay. ¿Para qué usas el cerebro? Uso mi cerebro para aprender. Uso mi cerebro para aprender. Do you remember what that one is? Good. To learn. I use my brain to learn. What do you use your brain for? I use my brain to learn. ¿Para qué usa el cerebro? Uso mi cerebro para aprender. Okay. ¿Para qué usas el cerebro? Uso mi cerebro para saber cosas. Saber cosas. That one, saber cosas. Good, to know things. I use my brain to know things. Okay, uso mi cerebro para hacer matemáticas. Hacer matemáticas. Good. That's to do math. Act like you're doing math on your fingers. Uso mi cerebro para hacer matemáticas. Okay, uso mi cerebro para hacer planes. Hacer planes. Good, to make plans. Act like you're talking on the phone and write down your plans in a planner. Uso mi cerebro para hacer planes. So hacer can mean to do, like to do math. Hacer can also mean to make, like to make plans. Okay, uso mi cerebro para memorizar. Uso mi cerebro para memorizar. ¿Para qué usa el cerebro? What do you use your brain for? Uso mi cerebro para memorizar. Okay, use my brain to memorize. Act like you're looking at flashcards. Okay. All right. Uso mi cerebro para recordar. Uso mi cerebro para recordar. Use my brain to remember. Aha. Like you have that aha moment. I remember that. Uso mi cerebro para recordar. Okay. ¿Para qué usa el cerebro? O ¿para qué usas el cerebro? Uso mi cerebro para acordarme de. Acordarme de. Remember that this one is basically the same as recordar. Okay, good. That's to remember. Except remember recordar, you probably use with like things and facts and information a little bit more. Acordarme de, you'd use more with like people. I remember people or places. Okay, use my brain to remember. Okay, uso mi cerebro para conocer a personas. Para conocer a personas. Remember that conocer was like saber. Earlier we had saber cosas. Saber cosas. So saber right there meant to know, right? Conocer a personas is to know people or to meet. It also can mean to meet people. It's like I'm familiar with people. I use my brain to be familiar with people, to know them, okay, or places. Okay, uso mi cerebro para. I use my brain to reconocer. Uso mi cerebro para reconocer. Remember what that one means? It's kind of an easy one. It's a cognate. Uso mi cerebro para reconocer. To recognize or to know something or somewhere. Okay, to refamiliarize myself with it. To recognize. Uso mi cerebro para reconocer. I use my brain to recognize. Reconocer a personas, recognize people, para reconocer California, to reconocer California, to recognize places. Okay, good. Okay, uso mi cerebro para imaginar. Remember reconocer, be like, for your gesture, you can act like you're looking at somebody and then that aha moment, like, aha, I see them and then I recognize them, aha. Okay, uso mi cerebro para reconocer. Look at him and aha. Okay, uso mi cerebro para imaginar. This one's also hopefully an easy one. It's cognate. Uso mi cerebro para imaginar. I use my brain to imagine. That one maybe act like you're imagining something in your brain. Use your hands to make some kind of like brain bubble or something above your head to imagine. Okay, uso mi cerebro para imaginar. Uso mi cerebro para imaginar. I use my brain to imagine. Uso mi cerebro para reconocer. I use my brain to recognize. Uso mi cerebro para imaginar. I use my brain to imagine. Okay, next. Uso mi cerebro para soñar. Para soñar. Remember that one? Good. To dream. So, uso mi cerebro para soñar. I use my brain to dream. For that one, I would do a gesture, act like you're sleeping, like lay your head down on your hands, and then maybe with the other hand, on your hands, act like you're kind of imagining something in your brain, like something's going on in your brain, like you're having a dream. Okay, so uso mi cerebro para soñar. Uso mi cerebro para soñar. I use my brain to dream. Okay, uso mi cerebro para soñar despierto. Uso mi cerebro para soñar despierto. So you have soñar again, which is going to mean the same thing, to dream. But despierto means awake. Okay, so literally it's I use my brain to dream awake, but in English we would say to daydream. Okay, like to dream during the day, dream while you're awake. So uso mi cerebro para soñar. Your head on your hands, act like you're dreaming, like bubbles above your head. Uso mi cerebro para soñar despierto. Maybe keep your eyes open and do that dreaming bubbles above your head for that one. Uso mi cerebro para soñar despierto. Okay. I think that is what I'm going to call that the end for this lesson. And like I said, there's a lot with your brain, a lot of actions, a lot of verbs that go with that. So we're going to break this one into a couple parts, at least 2 parts. And so we're going to end it right here for part 1. Please join us again next time for part 2 of what to use your brain for. See you next time in our RLS Spanish lesson.